Okay, this is an important one. We're on to misconception number 6, and I had someone say this to me just yesterday. So you've got someone that's really passionate about self-reg, and they're wherever they are and they're learning, but they really believe this is important, but they feel kind of down because they can't change everybody else around them, and they feel that the problem
Yeah, it's
is,
important.
the problem is that the other educators and the other folks alongside them in their school or in their early childhood center or at the board or whatever it is don't get it, and they feel a little bit down that they can't make the change.
You know, this one I really will give a 1 minute response to. Didn't I do that to you 2 hours ago? I am not the one to answer this question. I get down too. And it's because we know what it can do, and it's because we are driven, prosocially driven. But let's go back to something you and I did this morning, and it's important here, and that is, I get it, I have the same problem, but we look for balance. And what we have to recognize is that we have to have that pro-social balance in ourselves as much as preach it to others. And in the meantime, we do what we can do. But honest to God, it's hard for me.
Yeah, and it is for me as well. Stuart's often brings us back to our mantra, which is this child, and then we've expanded it to this person, whoever it is that's in front of us, and it's helped keep me. I mean, I joke sane because sometimes it can feel overwhelming, because you see things that you wish were different. It's
Yep.
But I don't want to sound hokey and just sort of say being the change that you want to see in the world, but in a way, it is also recognizing that you can make, it's Margaret Mead stuff, right? One person can really make a huge difference. You focus on what you can change. Do know that it has ripple effects, and that we've seen the most miraculous thing happen from one passionate educator, one passionate early childhood educator. There's one example, I know you'll know who I mean, who started, it was just her. And there's just something going on at her whole board now. And that's 3 years later. And it's phenomenal. And maybe it won't be. Maybe it'll just be you. But you're impacting the children and the parent. And those little ripple effects will have an influence. And they will grow. We see it all the time. The other thing is really to emphasize what Stuart just said about the prosocial stress. When we tend to really want others to change, and trust me, I get it. It's also, though, a sign that is us. We need to look at those folks that we wish were looking at things differently with those same soft eyes, that compassion that we do for the kids, to recognize that there's reasons that there's resistance, there's reasons, they care about kids too, and just noticing that it's our stress that's raising because we want them to change, and recognizing that for what it is sometimes can be enough of a shifter for you, to bring back a little bit more calm. But mostly know what you do matters. You matter a lot. You're not alone in feeling that way. Others do, and so do we sometimes. And I think you've often emailed me and say onward, and that's what we do.
I want to share something that I say to Susan really all the time. And when we emphasize or accentuate why and why now, we need to do it even when we meet resistance. And so one of the things that I do is, and trust me, I have met more resistance doing this than any of you is ever going to encounter. But it would be very easy to give in to negative emotions when this occurs. So to feel anxiety or frustration or even anger. But instead, I ask why here. And I've come to recognize that challenging deep-rooted biases can be very dysregulating for someone. And part of the easy answer here is, you have to wait. For them to be ready, so some sort of readiness. But I've actually reached a point in my life where this is what I feel. I won't swear, but come close to it. I don't care anymore. Now what I care about is I will say this And I know it's dysregulating. I know that for some, it would be nice to go back to Victorian paradigms because it gives you that sense of not having to think, not having to question. I understand that it is dysregulating or destabilizing. Get over it. Because what we're looking at here is we are looking at saving kids. We are looking at saving families. And that person that you were referring to, whose name we shall not mention, Kathy, represents in my mind courage.
Yeah.
And to do self-reg, you must have courage.
She represents compassion too. So
Yes,
the combination is a lovely combination.
Yep.
So.